State your name and spell your last name, please.
David Gregor, Gregor.
Thank you, Mr. Gallucci.
And he's a former cop. I forgot he's like, quote, apparently a former cop. We'll find out. But anyways, he looks like a fucking cop. Let's go.
Good morning, Mr. Gregor.
Morning.
Mr. Gregor, how old are you?
64.
I'm predisposed to saying Mr. Gregor, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm already predisposed to saying his dad, but we'll find out.
Currently employed?
I'm self-employed, yes.
Okay. And what did you do before you were self-employed?
My career, I spent 27 years as a state trooper.
Okay, and was that in New Jersey?
Goddamn. Goddamn. 27 years as a state trooper? Damn. You know how much people he sent to jail probably for no reason? Let me stop. You know how many black men? Let me stop.
It was.
Okay, and what roles did you have when you were a state trooper?
Various roles. I started off in as a road trooper, went to a tactical unit.
And he was a tactical unit. You already know he was mag dumping. Like, if he ever shot and killed somebody, you already know he used the whole clip. It wasn't just like, pow, pow, okay, suspect down. No, it was more like, suspect down. Like, have you ever seen those videos where the cop just unloads on them? And it's kind of like, okay, I understand you're defending your life, but did you have to shoot him 15 times? I don't know. Did you have to shoot him 15 times? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Emergency management, and then later in my career, Homeland Security.
Okay, and did you, when you were a state trooper, did you teach at all?
Stop persisting.
I did.
Okay, what did you teach?
Many disciplines. I taught.
I'll be back, y'all. Let me get some water.
Initially, in special operations, I taught scuba diving. I was a firearms instructor, self-defense instructor. Later in my career, emergency management, crisis management, consequence management, a whole host of disciplines.
Okay. Now, you said that currently you're self-employed. What are you self-employed at?
I do. I do various consulting with regards to Homeland Security strategic planning, continuity of operations planning, emergency management exercises, traffic management.
Okay. Are you married?
I am.
And what's your wife's name?
Carolyn.
Okay. And do you have any children?
I do.
And what are their names?
David, Kimberly, Christopher, and Daniel.
Okay. And do you have any grandchildren?
I have one.
Okay. When your children were young, were you involved in any of their activities?
I was involved with all their activities. Sports, certainly the school, brownies for my daughter, ballet, just about everything my schedule would allow.
Is that the daughter?
Just about everything my schedule would allow I was involved with.
Okay. And were you aware of your children's activities as far as high school and college and where they were?
Very much so.
Okay. Were you aware of Christopher's college education?
Yes.
Okay. Did there come a time when Christopher moved to Baltimore?
He did.
Okay, and when was that?
2017.
And do you know why he moved to Baltimore?
I do.
Okay, and why was that?
Christopher was entering Johns Hopkins program, which was called the Urban Teachers, for teaching in the inner city. And at the time he was going to school, he was earning his master's while he was under a mentorship with other teachers in Baltimore.
Okay. Now, prior to Christopher moving to Baltimore, did you know a person named Rebecca or Brianna Michola?
No.
Okay. When was the first time you knew of their existence?
I received a phone call the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, from a lady that identified herself as Rebecca.
Now, where were you living at the time you received that phone call from this person?
Monroe, New Jersey.
Without telling us what Rebecca said to you, or this person that said was Rebecca, without telling us what she told you, what, if anything, did you do as a result of that?
As a result of that phone call, I called Chris.
Okay. And after you called Chris, did you receive another phone call from this person?
Yes, I did.
And when was that?
A few weeks later.
Okay. And after you received that, without telling us what that person told you, what, if anything, did you, as a family, make a decision to do?
It wasn't until after the second phone call that a third phone call came from Rebecca to discuss how we were going to get involved.
Okay. Is that when you became aware that you actually had a grandchild?
It was.
Okay. And did you learn the name of that grandchild?
I did.
Okay, and what was the child's name?
His name was Corey.
Okay, and was that your first grandchild?
It was.
Okay. And do you know how old Corey was when you first became aware of him?
Man,
Yes.
Man, whatever. I don't know. I've been following this child from the beginning. Okay, Suzanne. Do you think his grandfather is full of shit? Or do you think he actually cared about the child? That's the big question right here.
He was about 4 years old.
Now, when you received that phone call, did you come up with a plan?
We did.
What was that plan?
Well, Corey began visits with us. And so our plan was to make him as comfortable as possible when he came to the house, which involved, it was almost as if you were bringing home a newborn. It was finding out his favorite foods. It was what size clothes he wore. It was getting out all the old sports equipment that I had put away years ago for my kids. It was creating an atmosphere for him to make him comfortable. We redid the bedroom next to ours, which had been my wife's office. It was originally a bedroom. And then as our children moved out, it became an office. It was a bedroom again. So we bought a...
man, don't smile at your daddy.
toddler.
Fuck you. Bitch-ass little... He just, man, I wish his dad would smack the shit out of him. Man, because he's smiling at... Man, this is not a fond memory. It used to be a fond memory. Now it's just a horrifying memory. That don't, like... I guess it's a fond memory if you detach it. But still, he's over here smiling,
When we moved
bro.
out, it became an office.
Oh, Daddy, I know Daddy, it was such... Like, bro, I hate this guy, bro. He sucks dick. Like, in a bad way.
It was a bedroom again. So we bought a toddler bed and bought a mattress and put a school desk in the bedroom. It was all encompassing.
Do you recall the first day when you met Corey?
I do.
What day was that?
August 8th.
Okay. Now, at that time, did your family have visitation with him?
Not yet. That visit was set up, and Christopher went to pick him up and brought him to our house for a couple hours.
Okay. Did visitation ever change where it became more than just that couple of hours?
On August 28th is when he had come to the house for an extended visit. And it was a Saturday and a Sunday, if I'm remembering correctly. And then subsequent to that, in October, is when Christopher got a shared custody agreement.
Okay. Now, you said a shared custody agreement, and when was that?
October, I forget. It was in the very beginning.
Okay. Now, and that was in 2019?
19.
Okay. So in October of 2019, did Christopher become the residential parent?
He did.
Okay. And when he became the residential parent, where was...
Everybody put W in the chat if you could hear. Put N if you can't hear. I'll turn it up a little
Christopher
bit.
living?
With us.
Okay. And from October of 2019 until at some point Christopher moved,
He did.
and when was that?
August 28th of 2020, he moved to
Okay,
Barnaby.
W's everywhere.
So from October of 2019 to August
Okay, that's
20th
fine.
of 2020.
I turned it up a little bit just in case.
In the beginning of October through January, he was back and forth between locations. January 28th is when he was actually full-time with us in terms of being a residential parent, if you will.
Okay. Now, from the day, who lived with Corey when he lived in your home?
Well, my wife, myself, and Christopher, then my daughter Kimberly, and my other son Daniel.
Briefly explain the daily life of what happened when Corey was home with you living.
So he came to us full-time at the end of January, and school was in session. So at the time, Christopher was teaching in Camden, and it involved early departure and a late arrival at home. So in essence, for the first few months, I felt as if I was the dad. And so the day would begin when he got up, and we would help him get ready for school, take a shower. My wife would make him breakfast. My wife was working at the time. Being self-employed, I had somewhat flexible hours. I tried to make it around Corey's schedule. And so it was all-encompassing. It's going through his book bag, making sure his assignments were in there, whatever permission slips or money he might have needed for that day. It was seeing him off to school, waiting for him to come off the bus at 3 o'clock. They dropped him off right in front of the house, and generally I was there waiting with some kind of sports item or and he would come back, and we would be engaged in some kind of activity so he could unwind. And then I'd bring him in, and the first thing is we went through his book bag. And I say, wait, it was me, because generally it was in the 4 o'clock or so area getting home. And we had an agreement with the school at the time as part of the program he was in was to give us an analysis of how he did in school that day. And so every day there was teacher's notes in a little blue book he used to keep, and it was the first thing I went through when I went through his book bag, see if he had a good day or did he have a bad day. And then subsequent to that, it was homework, dinner. Hopefully Chris was home by that time so he could eat with him. If he wasn't, we did that. We got the homework ready, and it was always something that Chris wanted to spend the end of the day with, him doing his homework.
Now, where did Corey go to school when he moved in with you?
At first, he was in Jamesburg School.
Okay, and did that change?
It did.
And where did it change to?
Appreciate you, Sam.
Right in the beginning of October, when the residential custody was assumed, we had meetings, Chris and I had meetings in Monroe to move him to the Barclay Brook School.
Okay, and that's located in Monroe.
It is.
Okay. Now, there comes a time when Christopher and Corey move out of your Monroe home, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when was that?
August 28th, 2020.
And where did they move to?
Barney?
Okay.
This
So-
lawyer seems like a full-on douchebag. This lawyer definitely has wife problems and drinking problems. I'm just saying, maybe not. Let's not say definitely, but that's my assumption. He seems like a complete douchebag to me. AG, do you ride motorcycles? No, I don't. I had 2 friends die on motorcycles.
2020,
Probably won't do
Christopher
that.
moves down to Barnegat, and who lived with Christopher?
Christopher and Corey.
Okay, so they lived together.
They did.
Between the time that Christopher moved to Barnegat and March 20th, did you see Christopher and Corey?
March 20th, 2000.
21.
I'm sorry, I was focused on something else.
When Christopher and Corey moved out,
Right.
on that day,
From August.
from August
To March.
March 20th of 2021, did you ever see
Oh.
Christopher and Corey?
Yes, many times.
Okay. How often?
As often as we could get down. We would take, I used to crab a lot in that area, so I would go down during the week if my schedule permitted, and the priority wasn't crab and it was getting over to the house and usually dropping off some kind of care package and spending some time with him if he wasn't in school at the time. And on the weekends, my wife would encourage me to go. I don't know how many times, many times.
We've seen a video of a treadmill incident that occurred on March 20th of 2021. Have you seen that video?
No,
Why not?
because I don't want to see Corey mistreated.
Okay. Between March 20th and April 2nd, did you see Corey?
I did.
And when was that?
March 22nd.
Okay. And why did you see Corey on March 22nd?
On the 22nd, Chris and Corey, they were looking for a home to purchase. And so, being that we were involved with the purchase in terms of helping, we went down, my wife was a real estate agent, and showed them 2 houses in Bayville. I was one, the other one was near Barnegat.
Okay. And How many houses?
Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna testify myself. Gregor, I don't think he should. But you never know. Grandpa seems like a jerk. I don't know. I don't know. Grandpa, again, we're gonna get to the whole the bruises sustained and him saying it and not saying anything. That's what I want to get to. Then I'll get my full opinion. I feel like he knows his son is a piece of shit. You have to know. And it's like, where do you get that behavior from? You know, if his son is this violent and irritable and just bites his son in the fucking head type angry, where did he get that from? You know? I mean, you don't really, you can't control what your kids do after they leave the house, but you have some sort of a effect on them. And his dad being a cop, a trooper, you could tell he probably ruled the house really kind of borderline abusively.
You looked at 2 houses?
2 houses.
Okay. And did you see Corey that day?
We did.
Okay. And what was Corey's demeanor on March 22nd?
He was happy and energetic. The entire time we look at both homes, we were talking about where his room would be and where would it be his yard to play with the dog. He was excited. He ran around a lot. I remember that because there was a situation at the one house on a trafficked street where as we were walking in the house, he ran out of the car and was running through the front yard, and my wife got all excited and ran after to get him because she was concerned with the street. But he had a lot of energy. He was very excited.
Okay. Now, after you looked at the houses, what, if anything, did you do next?
We visited my brother-in-law down in Barnegat.
Okay. And was Corey there?
He was.
And how was his demeanor at your brother-in-law's house?
Same. Happy, energetic. We were talking to him. I'm sure the visit was boring, but we kept saying, hey, we're going to go out and eat, and you're going to get French fries and everything to further his attention because it was all the adults visiting with each other.
By the way, what was Christopher's demeanor on the 22nd when you were looking at the houses?
Concerned. It was a major step in his life to purchase a home. Concerned that he could afford it. The homes we were looking at, of course, were all fixer-uppers. You know, we were helping. He's just starting off in his line of work, so funds were limited. And
Objection, Judge.
I really wrote it.
Okay.
Just saying.
So, what was his demeanor? Was the question I asked.
he was concentrating on the home, so he was very concerned.
So when you got to your brother-in-law's house, what was Christopher's demeanor?
Relatively happy, you know, asking questions about how could we do things with the homes. I'm talking about a whole host of things, but, you know, it seemed relatively normal to me other than the excitement about what the homes brought.
Okay.
Objection, Judge. It's speculation as to his subjective opinion as to normal.
They asked the answer, so it's
You know, Dad wants to say "fuck you, bitch." Look at his face. His face curled up. He was like, "Bitch, this is."
The homes brought.
Objection, Judge. It's speculation as to his subjective opinion as to normal.
Look at his face. Look at his face. He can't hide it. He can't hide it. He's like, "Fuck you."
They asked the answer, so it's fine.
Thank you, Judge.
With your family, did you finally take Corey out to dinner?
We did.
Okay. And where did you go to dinner?
We went to the Sun Harbor Grill in Barnegat.
And what was Corey's demeanor at the Sun Harbor Grill?
He's excited.
No, see, I don't think
Sorry?
Corey got away with a lot. Not with a dad like this. But who knows? Maybe.
About the food, and we talked about a whole host of things, but he was happy.
Now, between March 22nd and April 2nd, did you see Corey?
No.
On April 2nd, did you hear from Christopher?
I did.
And about what time did you hear from Christopher?
It was sometime after 5
Okay. And where were you at the time?
in the car.
Okay, and where were you going?
My wife had called me. I went home to pick her up, and we were heading down to Barnegat.
Okay. And can you please describe the conversation you had with Christopher, that first conversation?
The first conversation is when I took the phone from my wife. Christopher was on the phone with her. I could hear it was loud and very excitable, and I asked her to give me the phone, and then I got the phone.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna hit you up
What
still,
was
sir.
Christopher's demeanor during that conversation?
I gotta get you back to y'all.
Hysterical.
Damn emails.
When's the next time you heard from Christopher?
A few minutes later.
Okay. And describe that conversation.
It was the same. He was inconsolable. He just lost his son.
When's the next time you heard from Christopher after that? Did you call him or he called you?
I think there was a call right before 5:30, a relatively short call. I forget if he generated or I did.
And after that, when's the next time you heard from your son?
The next day, sometime afternoon, I think it was after 1 actually.
Okay, so that would be April 3rd.
It would be.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you discuss with your son?
I discussed one, where was he? And then I discussed, you got to be back here. We were distraught. Told him to come home.
Okay. And did there come a time that you rented a car for him?
I did.
Okay. And why did you rent a car, if you know?
I do. He was stopped in Tennessee, and he had to give up his vehicle and his cell phone, and he was without transportation.
Okay. So did
And you're
you
still
arrange?
helping them. This is some shit. It's like, man, as a father in this situation, I guess you don't know for sure yet, but it's like my eyebrows are raised, bro. If, as the UK people say, bruv, my eyebrows are raised, and then now I'm gonna go and buy you a car after the police, not buy you, rent you a car after the police already took away your other car and took away your phone. So hold on, son, hold on. The police took your car? Okay, so your son is dead, and now the police are taking your phone and your car. Son, what's going on? You should probably go back home, shouldn't you? Huh? Your son died in another fucking state, but nah, I'm just gonna rent you a car.
Transportation for your son to come home to New Jersey.
We made several calls and located a rental car place, and that we had made a call.
Oh, so
I don't
you
know
go
who
back?
paid for it, but we were involved in trying to secure a vehicle for him.
Okay.
I hope, man,
and
listen, I
eventually
just
we-
hope that vehicle was for him to go back the fuck home. Shh.
Return to New Jersey?
He did,
And what day was
Let me
that?
look at it.
April 5th.
Okay, so 3 days later. Okay,
Yes.
And when he arrived home in New Jersey on April 5th, where did he live?
With us.
After April 5th of 2021 until July, where did Christopher live?
With us.
And in July, did there come a time when police came to your house?
Yes.
And do you recall what day that was?
July 8th.
Okay. And which police came to your house?
Barnegat, someone from the prosecutor's office, and from my town, Monroe.
Okay. And what, if anything, did they ask?
They were looking,
Objection, it's hearsay, Judge.
What, if anything, did they do?
Right, that's fine.
well, they were looking for Christopher. They had asked me where he was.
Okay. And was he home?
He wasn't.
Okay. Do you know where he was?
I do.
Where was he?
He was on a hiking retreat out in western Pennsylvania.
Okay. And how did he get there?
My wife dropped him off.
Now, did you talk to him on July 8th?
I did.
Okay. And what did you tell him?
Exactly what I just said. The police were there and they were looking for him. They shared with me that there was
Almost.
a charge against him, but wouldn't share what the charge was.
Okay. And did you make arrangements for him to come home?
I pulled it. Thank you. I'm gonna check it out on the corner.
We did.
And what were those arrangements that you made for him?
Well, the original plan was to pick him up, my wife and I, to go out to dinner, and at the end of the hike is to pick him up and bring him home. So there was no vehicle. So this was a Thursday, if I remember right, because it was near the weekend. And at that point, it was getting near the end of the day, And we were like, how are we going to get a rent-a-car at the end of the day? And then at that point, I believe I called you to ascertain what exactly is the expectation in terms of his arrival back. He only can get home so quickly. And so it was nearing 5 o'clock, and it necessitated, based on the conversation with yourself, it necessitated him getting back as soon as possible. So I got involved. I have to make a call out to the rental company to see if they would stay open a little bit longer because he was going to be on his way.
Okay. What day did he come back?
July 9th.
The next day.
The next day, he was 9 o'clock a.m. He was at Barnegat Police Station. Drove through the night.
Okay. And do you know if he was arrested on that day?
He was.
And do you know what the charge?
This kid is on a fucking retreat? Is that what he said? What? Hold on. His dad has to be the stupidest man alive or the most enabling man alive, because he just killed his son and you let him go on a retreat? Is that what he just said? Nah, bro. It's like, oh, and we had to rush and get him a rental car so he could come home, but hey, he made it home. He made it back, you know? He made it. That, bro, what the fuck? A hiking retreat. Not just a retreat, a hiking retreat. So this involves fun.
Was on that day.
I do.
And what was that?
Endangering.
Okay. Now, between July 8th of 2021
So they arrested him.
and March of 2022, did Christopher live at your home at any point?
Yes.
And during that time he lived at your home, did he work?
He did.
Okay. Did he also have a girlfriend?
He did.
And what was his girlfriend's name, if you know?
Laura.
Okay. And between July of 2021 and March of 2022, would he live between you and his girlfriend's house?
Yes.
Now, did there come a time in March of 2022 that you understood that Christopher was arrested again?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you find that out?
Actually, my daughter told me.
Okay. Your daughter, Kim?
Kimberly.
Okay. And do you know what he was arrested for at that point?
I do.
Okay. And what was he arrested for at that point?
Murder.
Good.
And this was almost a year since Corey had passed?
Yes.
Wow, he got to move around for a fucking year. Damn, he was living life, bro. He was doing his retreats, getting pussy, going on dates and shit. Just living life. How about that? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. But I guess it takes time. Like, and I don't think he was really enjoying himself. You have to know in the back of your head, like, yeah, these cops are coming for me. Yeah, I'm probably fucked. Type shit. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the day finally came. And now he has to pay up for it. But a year of uncertainty, that's crazy.
When between July, let me go here. After Corey passed, did you have any type of memorial for him?
We did.
And when was that?
I believe it was April 8th.
Okay. And can you tell us about that?
Well, we had a separate wake subsequent to the wake with his mother's family, and a separate ceremony at the cemetery.
Okay. Was Christopher present for the memorial?
Objection, Judge. I think we're really, I don't understand the relevancy.
It's overruled. You can say he was present for that.
Was he present?
Yes.
His lawyer is a jackass, bro. I don't know why. I just don't like this guy. He just looks like a jackass to me. I don't know. Even the watch he wears, it's just like everything about him. It's like, fuck you, bro.
Thank you. Just let them.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Gregor.
Morning.
Now, you testified before that your son while he was in Baltimore, was in a program at Johns Hopkins, correct?
Correct.
And your son had previously graduated college from an online school, correct?
For his bachelor's, yes,
And he had been to several different undergraduate schools, correct?
he did.
And he ultimately finished his education with an online program, correct?
I
His
believe he
undergraduate.
received his associates from the county college and then the bachelor's from
Right.
Ashford.
So you testified about a time period where you were caring for Corey, correct?
Yes,
And during that time period, you
That spray tan is going crazy.
would be the person who would go through Corey's book bag, correct?
I'd be one of the people that went through his book bag,
And you would be the person who would get him off of the bus, correct?
generally.
And you would be the person who would be checking, correct?
One of the people.
Okay. And you testified at a previous hearing, correct?
I did.
And in that previous hearing, although you're testifying now that you were responsible for all of these things, you couldn't recall what school grade Corey was in, correct?
At that time, that's correct.
Then your son wasn't doing those things in terms of being so involved in education, correct?
No, it's not correct.
So your son was more involved in Corey's education than you were?
I really didn't assign a percentage of who was more responsible. I took it as when I dealt with his schoolwork that I was 100% responsible in understanding where he was in his classes, what his assignments were, what he was struggling with, and what he was doing well with. That information was passed to my son as soon as he got home and in very many discussions so that he could pick it up and go through the same work that I did and understand all the things I just mentioned.
Okay, but you were actually the person physically going through his book bag then, correct?
I was one of the people.
Right, and you're also the person you testified before who got him off the school bus, correct?
Generally, I did, yes.
Okay. So, based upon what you said then, you would agree that you were pretty integral in terms
See,
of...
she's going down the exact same path I was talking about. This is not just grandpa. This is someone who's acting in place as father. He literally said that himself. You know what I'm saying? She's going down the same route. So how the fuck did you not know that he was getting abused? I like where she's going with this. Let's see what she says.
of caring for Corey while he lived in your house, correct?
Absolutely.
And then during August, right?
Oh yeah, he's looking down at her ass. She's like right in front of him. That's why is she coming so close? I don't know. She right there. Look at his eyes. He's looking down. She's like right here. Hey, intimidation, bro.
Defendant and his son moved away from your home, correct?
That's true.
And at that point in time, they actually moved to Barnegat, right?
They did.
And they moved to the Atlantic Heights complex in Barnegat, correct?
They did.
And when your son moved with your grandson, at that point in time, you would have been less involved in Corey's care and education, correct?
Yes,
And that would be because you weren't with him every day, correct?
that's correct.
And at
Correct.
that point in time, it would have been your son's responsibility on his own to care for Corey, correct?
Correct.
Because you weren't there every day anymore, correct?
No.
And he would be solely responsible for going into his backpack, correct?
Correct.
And he would be solely responsible for making sure that he got picked up from school, correct?
Correct.
And he no longer had your guidance and your assistance at that point because he was no longer living with you, correct?
Are you referring to Corey?
I'm referring to your son.
I would give him all the verbal assistance I could every time we talked on the phone in terms of how he was doing and what the plan was to help him.
Right, but you were no longer physically there to actually assist in this, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to take you to March 22nd, I believe is the date that you testified about. And on that day, you and your wife went down to Barnegat, correct?
We did.
And you saw your son that day, correct?
Correct.
And you saw Corey that day, correct?
We did.
And you spent a few hours with your son and you spent a few hours with Corey, right?
Correct.
And your wife noticed that Corey had a bruise on his forehead, correct?
He did.
And did you see the bruise located on Corey's forehead?
I did.
And
Yeah, you could tell these are the questions he's not gonna want to answer. And it's like, bro, how you still stand up for your son like that, bro? Fuck him. You could still love him and just tell him like, hey, bro, fight that battle on yourself, big dog. Fight that shit on your own, because you killed your fucking son, so I can't really help you. Like, I don't understand how he's still, like, God forbid I have a son who goes and does some crazy shit like that. Do you think I'm gonna support him? I don't know. Actually, I don't know the answer to that question because I don't have a son, so who knows? But I would imagine I wouldn't be there supporting him. But
during the course of this case, on April 2nd of 2021, after Corey passed, you spoke to Detective Mitchell with the prosecutor's office, right?
I did.
And you gave him a pretty long statement, correct?
It was.
And when you were speaking to the detective, nowhere did you tell him that Corey had this bruise when you saw him on the 22nd, correct?
I don't believe I mentioned it.
And with all of your training that you just talked about and being a police officer and in Homeland Security, this wasn't important for you to mention when you were talking to the detective, correct?
I didn't think it was any more significant than him telling me he fell in the treadmill.
Okay. So Corey told you that he fell on the treadmill?
that's what I was just gonna say. What the fuck? And why is Corey even on the fucking treadmill? What is he, 100 pounds? Nah, probably like 80 pounds or some shit. What is he, 80 pounds? A 6-year-old. What is the typical 6-year-old weight? Probably like 80, 90, 100. What the fuck is he on the treadmill for? He's not even a fat kid. I can see if he was fat. The kid is a twig. He's a stick figure. Why is he on the treadmill? That would be my first question. A 60 pound? What? 70 to 80? Okay, cool. Why the fuck are you on the treadmill in the first place? What are you burning? What are you burning off? That's my, like, what are you burning off? I don't get it. Like, at 6 years old, you're not supposed to be lifting weights and you're not supposed to be running on no treadmill. That just sounds wrong. It just sounds wrong. Like, oh, the kid was exercising? He wasn't just playing? No, he was exercising. Like, what was he? He was on a treadmill? It's weird. That's weird.
It was a joint discussion at dinner.
Okay. And again, this wasn't important to you at that time.
Well, it was important that he had a scrape on his forehead,
Okay.
but I didn't think to mention it to Detective Mitchell.
Okay. Attention to April 2nd. You spoke to your son while you were driving down to the hospital in Stafford, correct?
Correct.
And when you spoke to your son while you were driving to the hospital, you told your son that you were going to contact the police, correct?
I did.
And that was based upon conversations that you had with your son on that day, correct?
It was.
And when you got to the hospital, after you had told your son that you were going to contact the police, your son wasn't there at the hospital, correct?
He wasn't in the emergency room now.
And when you got to the hospital, Corey was there by himself without any family member, correct?
That's correct. They wouldn't let my wife and I in.
Right. And your son, though, he was not with Corey when you got to the hospital, right?
No.
And in the time between from when your son left until you got there, Corey was alone in the hospital without any family members, correct?
As far as I know.
As
And
far as you know.
when you
Who the
got
fuck
to the
else is going to be there? God? Jesus? That Jesus is the only other family member. The fuck you talking about? Who else is there? As far as I know. Dumbass. That's a dumbass response. That's a brain dead response.
Hospital, and your son is not there, you were trying to find him, correct?
Correct?
And you were basically telling him to come back, correct?
When I did talk to him, I told him he needed to come back.
Right. And in fact, you didn't even talk to your son again until the following day, correct?
That's correct.
And that would have been on April 3rd, correct?
Yes,
And let's say the night of April 2nd, you didn't talk to your son, correct?
I didn't talk to him, no.
And you didn't know where he was the night of April 2nd, correct?
I didn't know.
And then the morning of April 3rd, you didn't speak to your son, correct?
No.
And you didn't know where he was.
Everybody in this fucking crowd looks absolutely traumatized. Especially her and him and everybody. It's like, imagine what Chris did to his whole family. You know, what a piece of shit. You got to think about the bigger picture when you're doing things. And you would expect that when I say something like that, you would expect it to be a situation where you decide to shoot somebody or not, or if you decide to fight somebody or not. But in this case, it's like, damn, deciding whether to kill your son or not. That's kind of an obvious one. You probably shouldn't do that. It'll fuck your family up. But yeah, I really don't understand what his goal really was. Like, for example, we did the Shonda case, and now we kind of understand why Shonda did what she did. It was a whole list of things. But in this one right here, it's almost like, you know, I'm sure we'll figure it out further on. Did he not like the kid? Did he think the kid was disrespectful? Like, what caused him to be that serious with him? Did the kid talk about his mom too fondly? Maybe he hated when he talked about his mom. I don't know, but none of what he did really makes too much sense to me. And you guys are saying roid rage. I said that as a joke. I highly doubt it's anything I don't even think bro does steroids. He looks fat. He's probably just an asshole, but I don't know. The motivation for this is what I'm curious about.
The morning of April 3rd, correct?
No.
And then finally, on April 3rd, your son calls you, correct?
Correct.
And when he called you, he was in Arkansas, correct?
That's what I believe, and I believe it from looking at the phone log. I don't remember him telling me he was in Arkansas.
But it's your understanding, based upon what you reviewed, that he was in Arkansas, correct?
That's what I believe.
Oh. And then
Fucking
you're
saw.
the person who told your son to come back, correct?
We all did.
And you told him that he needed to get home from Arkansas, correct?
Correct.
Now, the next time you saw your son would have been on April 5th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that summer, your son and his now girlfriend, what's her name?
Laura.
Okay. So that summer, your son and Laura actually went on a hiking trip, correct?
They did.
And that would have been a few months after Corey passed?
3 months.
And the two of them went hiking in the Appalachian trails, correct?
They were in Pennsylvania. I think it was the Appalachian Trail.
And they also went on a van trip up in Maine. Isn't that correct?
I don't recall that.
But they spent time traveling together, correct?
That was, yes.
And that only would have been a few months after Corey's passing, correct?
August is 3 months after he passed, yes.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions.